Was Hooter.
Up next, straight ahead, last week, George W. Bush visited this university looking for votes. Tonight, that school's controversial policies are causing big problems on the campaign trail. Plus, Nightly's Forgotten Heroes series continues with the story of a remarkable heroine, a nurse who became the most decorated woman in American military history.
We will see you back here at 6. Here's Tom Brokaw.
After Michigan, McCain, the front-runner, trying to convince Republicans he's one of them. Bush vowing he's the real Republican. In depth, inside Bob Jones University, how Bush's visit there won't go away, a political litmus test for religious and racial tolerance. Bad medicine, the Supreme Court on whether patients can sue their HMOs for putting cost ahead of care. And our special series, Forgotten Heroes. She served the sick and wounded in 2 wars, the most decorated woman in American military history.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Well, the race for the Republican presidential nomination is now in a critical stage. We're counting down to March 7th. That's a week from next Tuesday, when more than 1/3 of the delegates will be chosen, and the nominee should be clear at that time. Should be. Tonight, it is clear that John McCain is the frontrunner for now, after his impressive win in Michigan, but he has independents and Democrats to thank for that. So we go now to NBC's Ann Thompson to find out the McCain strategy for persuading Republicans that he's one of them. Ann?
Tom, McCain campaign officials say this week's victories are just more evidence that he is the only Republican who can win in November. And they are hoping to use his strong showings with Democrats and independents to convince Republicans that their ticket to the White House is a McCain ticket. Today, John McCain trying to convince Republicans he is one of them.
I am a proud conservative Republican. I am a Reagan Republican. I have no doubt about that. And I have to convince and tell our Republican establishment, it's great over here. Come on in.
A message he'll be using a lot heading to Super Tuesday and some primaries where only Republicans will be voting. Now stressing his conservative record with calls for reform, the emphasis on cutting taxes and spending, free trade, and getting the government out of the private sector, trying to undo damage done by George W. Bush.
There's been a real effort by the Republican establishment to fool people about McCain's good conservative record. But as I know the facts, that this guy, like Ronald Reagan, is a Republican reformer.
McCain's goal, to try and expand the Republican core.
And what I'm trying to do here is start what we're calling a McCain majority.
Only in his home state of Arizona has McCain won a majority of Republicans, 56%. The big win in Michigan, he got only 29% of the GOP vote. Democrats and independents made him the winner, something the Bush camp doesn't want Republicans to forget.
If McCain engages in whether or not Democrats and independents are trying to take over the party, he's dancing to George W. Bush's tune. I think McCain needs to dance to his own. That's what's got him this far, and he needs to focus on that.
And tonight, the battle of attack faxes continues. Late this evening, McCain charging the Bush campaign with launching a new round of negative phone calls, this time in Virginia, where a primary will be held there next Tuesday, using the same phone calls taped by televangelist Pat Robertson that accused McCain campaign chairman Warren Rudman of being a vicious bigot. Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC's Ann Thompson tonight on the McCain campaign. As for George Bush, he's winning the battle for Republican voters, but he's losing the war, and he says that will end soon. If he expects to be the nominee, it had better. NBC's David Bloom is with the Texas governor again tonight. David?
Tom, saying he'd received a glancing blow by losing both Michigan and Arizona. The Texas governor nonetheless argued today that John McCain cannot and will not be his party's nominee because of those Republican primary voters voting overwhelmingly for Bush.
Good morning.
Seeking to counter McCain's new push for Republican voters, Governor Bush, campaigning in Southern California today, portrays himself as the real Republican, pointing out that in Michigan, Senator McCain received less than 1/3 of the Republican votes.
I lost the liberal Democrat vote of people who come into our primary to try to hijack the election, to hijack the primary to help Al Gore.
And many Democrats are euphoric, believing a weakened Bush
forced to the right by McCain will still prevail, but as a less formidable threat to Gore. Senate Democratic leader Tom Daschle today.
I'll just say that John McCain is doing the country a real service.
But Bush is furious with McCain. Didn't even call to concede last night.
No. He could hear it. I congratulate him.
The Texas governor livid that in Michigan, McCain's campaign made tens of thousands of phone calls to Catholic voters, suggesting Bush is anti-Catholic because he gave a speech at South Carolina's fundamentalist, some say anti-Catholic, Bob Jones University. McCain's top aide spent much of yesterday denying to reporters that they'd made any such calls, only to admit last night that they had and continued to do so even while they were denying it.
After the polls have closed, after you all had to put up your notebooks, after the cameras were off, they admitted that they were making those calls into that state. I don't accept that kind of campaigning, and I don't appreciate it one bit.
But if Bush is angry, so too are many of his own supporters. They're critical of the Texas governor's campaign for his stop at Bob Jones University, for wasting millions of dollars in McCain's home state of Arizona, and for not recognizing, perhaps until too late, just how serious a threat John McCain poses. Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC's David Bloom tonight. In the end, of course, in the game of politics, numbers count. And to go through what's ahead in terms of the numbers, tonight, NBC's Washington Bureau Chief, moderator of Meet the Press, Tim Russert. Tim, we've got a fascinating 10 days, almost 2 weeks ahead of us here.
Here we go, Tom. Next week, Washington State and Virginia. Both open primaries. Democrats, independents, Republicans can all vote. George Bush thinks he can take both those states. John McCain wants to take one. That's his strategy. Try to keep some momentum going into Super Tuesday. And that is critical. These three states, Tom, also open. Ohio, Missouri, and Massachusetts. Independents can cross over and vote in the Republican primary. McCain thinks he has a very good chance of winning those states. George Bush believes Ohio is more traditional than Michigan, and he can stop McCain in Ohio. And then the real critical test, Tom, on March 7th, New York, Connecticut, and California. Republicans only count for delegates. McCain thinks he can win New York and Connecticut. California is the huge shootout, the big battleground. John McCain believes if he can get more Republicans in California than George Bush, he's the nominee. George Bush says nonsense. He can only get 1 out of 4 Republicans in Michigan. There's no way he can get a majority in California. I will win the Republicans in California. And the following week on March 14th, lock it up with victories in Texas and Florida, where both governors are named Bush. What a campaign for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Thanks very much, NBC's Tim Russert tonight. As for the Democrats, well, they were talking about jobs and health care today. Bill Bradley in New York City unveiling a proposal that would protect workers who lose their jobs as a result of U.S. trade agreements. His program would provide an income supplement and help displaced workers train for new jobs. Al Gore was in Florida pushing a plan to help senior citizens pay for prescription drugs using funds from the budget surplus to supplement existing Medicare coverage. Healthcare also on the agenda at the U.S. Supreme Court tonight. The court is considering whether patients should be allowed to sue their HMOs for putting cost saving ahead of care. More now from NBC's Pete Williams.
Cynthia Herdrick believes her HMO nearly killed her, withholding prompt treatment when she complained of severe pain in her abdomen.
I was in so much pain that I could not walk in standing straight up. I was sort of bent over at the waist.
The doctor at her HMO was puzzled and wanted to get an ultrasound test, but not right away at a local hospital, ordering it instead to save money at a related HMO 50 miles away and 8 days later. While she waited, her appendix ruptured, causing a life-threatening infection. She sued the doctor for malpractice and won, but then she decided to sue the HMO, too, after discovering that it paid its doctors a bonus for holding down costs. Her lawyer told the Supreme Court today that when HMOs do that, they actually encourage doctors to withhold treatment.
To the extent that that money is not spent on those services, it's available for bonuses for the doctors at the end of the year. So they're essentially getting paid to look the other way with respect to your health care.
Nearly 160 million Americans get their health care from an HMO, almost 8 out of every 10 people covered by private insurance plans. And most states ban lawsuits against them. But Cynthia Herdrick's lawyer says patients should be able to sue when HMOs give their doctors incentive bonuses. Today, the Supreme Court seemed to believe that's no basis for suing. Justice David Souter says all HMOs try to keep costs down because if they don't, they'll go out of business. And Sandra Day O'Connor saying Congress encourages HMOs to control the expense of medical care. Lawyers for HMOs insist that no doctor is going to withhold needed care and risk a lawsuit just to get a bonus.
You can't just look at the numbers and say, oh, gee, there seems like there's a conflict there. The truth is, if you step back for 30 seconds, it is an irrational judgment to think the physicians are going to risk malpractice on that basis.
Based on their comments today, the justices seem prepared to rule that HMOs cannot be sued for trying to keep a lid on costs, even when they do it by rewarding their doctors with bigger paychecks. Pete Williams, NBC News at the Supreme Court.
Another part of the American economy, Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan was back on Capitol Hill today with some more blunt words for the Senate Banking Committee. Echoing his testimony in the House last week, Greenspan called the current economic growth rate unsustainable. Those words rattled the blue chips a bit. As a result, the Dow finished down more than 79 points, but technology investors were on a buying binge again. NASDAQ today had its biggest one-day point gain ever. It was up more than 168 points, still another record close. Up next, Campus of Controversy. NBC News in depth. Why a visit to that South Carolina college is hurting George Bush's presidential campaign.
I believe he had a bomb dropped on him from outside, because it was not an issue until this election cycle.
This school has created a political firestorm, and that's tonight's In Depth. And in Kansas City, an unspeakable crime and good Samaritans who refuse to let it go on.
This can't be happening. My family, how will they manage? Men get heart attacks, not women, not me.
It's the #1 killer of women. It's heart disease, and it's now been proven that the same aspirin you take for pain can help stop women from dying if taken during a heart attack. Can your pain reliever do that? Talk to your doctor now.
How you feel?
I'll be fine.
There. Take it for pain. Take it for life.
If you can do this, you can make wood beautiful with Minwax. And if you can do this, you can give wood lasting protection. Turning a house into a beautiful home is as easy as turning to Minwax.
Net 1, pearl 2.
Bingo! Mr. Barkley wins again!
These days, it's never too early to think about retirement. Maybe that's why so many people go to Schwab.com. In a few steps, you can open a Roth, a traditional IRA, or a rollover, invest in a range of funds, and plan for the future. Because retirement,
you got the upper,
comes sooner than you think.
Well?
I asked my doctor about Lipitor.
Ask your doctor what Lipitor can do for you, or call 1-888-LIPITOR to learn more. Lipitor.
So what's on for today?
Boss wants you, me, and Charlie to take the new Silverado and move them bales.
Is that Charlie?
Chevy Silverado has the most powerful V8 of any 4x4 pickup.
Then we gotta water the herd.
300 horses make it more powerful.
If there's any daylight left, we'll take Norm up to see the ladies.
More powerful than Ford and Dodge. That's why it's the truck. Silverado from Chevy.
Well, guess that's enough.
New tonight at 6. She may be the next animal supermodel. Her name is Zelda, and we'll show you how this bulldog is stealing the spotlight in the greeting card business. Tonight at 6 on Northwest News Channel 8, where the news comes first. Matt Zaffino, only on Northwest News Channel 8.
NBC News in Depth tonight, the most controversial stop on the campaign trail and the problems it's creating for George W. Bush. Bob Jones University is a small school, just over 5,000 students. Over the years, it's been visited by prominent politicians, including Ronald Reagan, Dan Quayle, and Bob Dole. When George W. Bush made his pilgrimage to the campus, he paid a big penalty. NBC's Fred Francis tonight is in South Carolina, reporting in depth.
It could be any small college USA. Sculpted lawns, serious students. But this religious school in Greenville finds itself tonight in the middle of a national political firestorm. Bob Jones University, which once called itself the world's most unusual university in promotional literature, may in fact be. Ask Wayne Moritzen, an ordained minister, once embraced as a loyal graduate, who says he can no longer feel the school's Christian love.
It was a terrible sense of betrayal.
The betrayal, he says, banned 18 months ago from campus once his homosexuality was discovered. Evangelist Bob Jones founded the school 73 years ago for whites only. Today, many say his grandson, Bob Jones III, runs it as if it were still 1927 with only one policy change. Other races are now welcomed at its campus, but no interracial dating or marriage is permitted, and no homosexuals. The school, which charges a flat $10,000 a year for full board and tuition, lost its federal tax-exempt status 16 years ago because it would not change its interracial policy. And in what many see as the epitome of religious intolerance, the school's leaders have described Catholics as members of a cult and the Pope a dangerous leader. It was here against this backdrop that George W. Bush came in search of votes after he lost the New Hampshire primary.
We who stand on conservative principles have got compassionate hearts for the people who live in this country.
Although Bush said nothing to endorse the school's philosophy, his very presence here created an uproar now going into its third week, with Bush on the defensive. Last night, he said this to NBC News.
I reject any labeling me because I happen to go to a university. I don't like that kind of talk.
The American public who buys anything the national media says ought to have its head examined, because these are evil people doing an evil thing to this nation.
School officials blame the media for stirring the controversy and also charged John McCain with spreading lies about Bush's visit.
I believe he had a bomb dropped on him from outside, because it was not an issue until this election cycle. Someone turned it into an issue.
Communications Director Jonathan Pate defends the school's biblical teachings and its policies on race.
Why can't American people have an alternative where they can send their children and go to sleep at night, put their head down, and not worry?
But the school's detractors claim that Bob Jones teaches hate in a very sophisticated way. Wayne Moritzen says Bob Jones threatened him with arrest if he returned to campus.
I think he despises me because I'm different.
And tonight, despite the national political controversy, the school says it will never change its fundamentalist ways. Fred Francis, NBC News, Greenville, South Carolina.
More news up next, and later our special series, Forgotten Heroes. An Army nurse who was on the front lines of 2 wars became the most decorated woman in U.S. military history.
Natural, real. I want to look the way I feel. I'm a Grecian man. Want it quick, hassle-free. A look that really looks like me. Grecian man. A Grecian man, no time for gray. A new generation, a whole new day.
Grecian Fire. Itchy allergic rash? The dermatologist I work for recommends Cordate. It stops the itch and helps heal the rash to restore your skin. There's no brand doctors recommend more. In fact, doctors recommend Cordate more than 4-to-1 over Cortisone 10. Cordate, restore your skin.
It came from nowhere, baptized today on the hot sands of Daytona, where a mile measures the length of your nerve. They call these giants 300.
4 decades later, their fuel-injected descendant has arrived.
She's got some real fire in her belly.
Chrysler 300M, the most powerful sports sedan in its class.
Well, I reckon a fella could get used to winning in this car.
Chrysler 300M. Car and Driver's 10 Best 2 years running.
Before I quit smoking, I asked my doctor, is Nicorette safe? And he said, of course Nicorette is safe. Smoking is not. Nicorette has been proven safe and effective in dozens of clinical trials. And Nicorette offers the Committed Quitter Support Program, which my doc said is clinically proven to increase my chances of success by up to 50%. And when he told me that only Nicorette comes in mint, I knew that that was the right choice for me. So I took my doctor's advice, and you know what? It worked.
You can do it. Nicorette can help. Living heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
We all know what gives us heartburn.
French fries, hamburgers.
Pizza. Ice cream. The food you love. Yes. But when it comes to relief, what do you do?
I usually take one of these, and by the end of the day, the roll is gone.
That's because antacids neutralize stomach acid, but only temporarily.
The potential result, heartburn return.
You take an antacid, and the next thing you know, your heartburn is back.
Pepsid AC is different. It works with your body to control acid right at the source. Unlike antacids, Pepsid AC can prevent heartburn return.
You take Pepsid before, right?
Actually, you can take Pepsid AC before, during, or after heartburn hits.
Can't say that for my antacid.
Now there's a better choice for effective heartburn relief.
It's like today, only later. Later today, weekdays on NBC.
Overseas now, where tonight NATO is considering sending an additional 2,000 more NATO peacekeepers into Kosovo. The contingent, which would include hundreds of American troops, will go to the city of Mitrovica, where new tensions have erupted between Serbs and ethnic Albanians. In Africa, the country of Mozambique is appealing for help. It's in desperate straits tonight after 2 weeks of heavy rains followed by a cyclone. Much of Mozambique is underwater. It's estimated that some 300,000 people have lost their homes. More than 70,000 acres of crops have been destroyed. There's already a risk from epidemics. In this country, a different kind of violence, a carjacking in Kansas City, in which a 6-year-old boy was dragged to death. It was simply too much to bear for several who saw it unfold. NBC's Jim Avila tonight on Citizen Outrage, Citizen Restraint.
A crime Fred and Brad Byam could not ignore. Two brothers driving the interstate outside Kansas City on the way home from a job site witness a 6-year-old boy dragged 4 miles to his death, trapped in his seatbelt, victim of a carjacker.
It's horrifying. And just you try to do anything you can.
The Byams honked, flashed their lights, but the carjacker would not stop until the brothers forced him to, blocking the stolen SUV with their own.
I just knew we had to stop the car. Wherever they were going, they couldn't go anymore.
The brothers pulled the carjacker from the driver's seat. A crowd gathered as he struggled to escape. The Byams holding him on the ground, fighting back their anger, enough to actually protect him at the same time.
The other woman that came running up and wanted to do him some harm, I told her to get back, that we weren't doing that.
Instead, the crowd of Good Samaritans found a rope, tied the suspect's feet, listening for sirens, hoping the police were on the way. Today, 34-year-old Kim Davis was charged with second-degree murder, a bruise in his forehead clearly visible as police escorted him to court wearing a bulletproof vest. A visibly shaken prosecutor calling the citizen's arrest a heroic act.
They saw something that had to be stopped, and they stopped it, and thank God for them.
As for the Byam brothers, it was the worst thing they have ever seen, the death of a 6-year-old in a senseless act.
The people that were there and saw it will be forever touched by it. And all for somebody to joyride or steal a car.
A crime too horrible to ignore, too sad to forget. Jim Avila, NBC News, Chicago.
I'll be right back. Our special series, Forgotten Heroes.
We got a dog for the kids. Okay, so I became attached. Dad! So my wife called it obsessive. I just wanted the perfect food for my dog. Talked to the vet, talked to the breeder, read books. Okay, 2 words. Go shopping. That's how I found Purina One brand lamb and rice formula. First ingredient, lamb. I think we found our dog food. Me? Obsessive? I don't think so. Purina One, second to none.
Starting to feel a little cramped by your present surroundings? RE/MAX can help you find a new home while selling your current one to someone who'll find it absolutely perfect. Look for RE/MAX. Nobody sells more real estate.
When we asked some denture wearers why they don't use an adhesive, they didn't have a lot to say.
Don't need it.
My dentures fit fine. No problems here.
But after we gave them Fix-A-Dent, they just couldn't say enough.
It's amazing, the difference. It's a great new feeling of security.
Comfort.
Confidence.
I just plain forget I have them.
That's because Fix-A-Dent adjusts to the unique contours of your dentures and gums, forming a thin, powerful seal for a better hold than you ever thought possible.
I could just kick myself for not doing this sooner.
Find out for yourself what it feels like to Fix-A-Dent and forget it.
A proper gentleman eats one cookie at a time.
But these aren't cookies.
They're Newtons.
Oh. We can't be proper all the time, now can we?
A cookie is just a cookie, but fat-free Newtons are fruit and cake.
What's this? Dessert?
Newton's cobblers. Even more fruit and cake.
Oh, why didn't you bring them round?
And where would you have put them?
Come, Freddie.
Cold, dry air makes it worse. So can days like these. That's scalp stress itch. And Scalpicin stops it. Clean, unscented, medicated. To stop scalp stress itch.
Fast.
Scalpicin stops scalp stress itch.
Ask your doctor about Nasonex, prescription nasal allergy spray taken once a day for relief from nasal allergy worries, indoors and out, day or night. Approved for children 3 years and up. Side effects were generally mild and included headache, viral infection, sore throat, nosebleeds, and coughing. Nasonex, because the less to worry about, the better.
Tomorrow, the summit on losing weight. Now the best-selling diet doctors are called to Washington to tell the truth. Do their diets really work? Find out on NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
Another reason CNBC.com's portfolio tracker has been called the best on the web. Stock quotes updated every 2 minutes on CNBC.com. Profit from it.
Tonight we continue our series, Forgotten Heroes, the stories that came out of the Forgotten War, Korea, which started 50 years ago this spring. Tonight, NBC's Bob Dotson on a heroic woman who was there when it started.
At 92, Ruby Bradley has outlived the few
Here I am.
who could tell you her story firsthand.
Boy, that looks like I'm 150 years old.
A half-century ago, she was a frontline Army nurse in Korea, the day 100,000 Chinese soldiers overran American troops and started closing in on her hospital tent.
They were going to take me out first, and I didn't. I got behind something and stayed in. I was the last one out.
After she had loaded the sick and the wounded onto the plane that was sent for her.
We were receiving patients who'd been ambushed just 5 miles up the road.
Everything was happening and happening fast.
Communist snipers surrounded the plane. Major Bradley jumped aboard just as her ambulance exploded from an enemy shell.
You can get out in a hurry when you have somebody behind you with a gun.
Ruby Bradley came home to a hero's parade. Neighbors in Spencer, West Virginia, wondering why she had volunteered to serve on the front lines, considering where she'd been before. 37 months in a Japanese prison camp during World War II, slowly starving so children could eat.
I'd save part of my food for the children later in the day when they start crying and be hungry.
Nurse Bradley shrank to 86 pounds. She used her ill-fitting uniform to smuggle surgical supplies into the POW camp.
And I was bulging here and bulging there, you know, with all sorts of equipment.
We smuggled in the instruments, and Ruby kept those at great risk to herself.
Bradley's courage saved many lives. She assisted in 230 operations, delivered 13 babies.
I knew I'd get through. I was just sure of it.
Nurse Bradley didn't just get by. She became the most decorated woman in American military history.
You know, a picture of these would weigh 10 pounds.
34 medals and citations for bravery, including 2 Bronze Stars.
Oh, yes.
Bradley retired from the Army in 1963, but remained a nurse all her working life. She admits this was not the life Army recruiters promised in 1933.
They said, now don't worry, you won't be in any war. Yours and 2 of them.
But Ruby Bradley fought and fought fiercely for 6 years, not just in one war, but 2, determined to save lives while everyone around her was trying to take them. Bob Dotson, NBC News, Spencer, West Virginia.
That's Nightly News for this Wednesday. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Nightly News is a presentation of NBC News. More Americans watch NBC News than any other news organization in the world. From KGW, where the news comes first, this is Northwest News Channel 8 at 6.
She's a figure skater with a notorious past. Tonight, Tanya Harding again finds herself on the wrong side of the law.
At her house in Camas, an argument turns ugly, and now Tanya faces criminal charges. It's our top story tonight. Hello, I'm Tracy Berry.
I'm Carol Jensen. Thank you for joining us this evening. She has made a name for Washington.